been awesome or what? We've got one more speaker, and I don't want to take hardly any of her time. I'd never met her before. Joe introduced me and Angie to her at the Golden Above dinner, and it became really obvious really quick that she knows what she's doing fast.
It's the wrong side. We gotta go back one. There we go. So it's that one. She's coming out on 4.
And then my microphone?
Huh?
What microphone do you want me to use? That one? Is it on? Okay.
Mindy Saunders.
Thank you. How's it going, Facebook? I'm so excited to be here. We are live. When you're here, put live in the comments if you are on the replay, hashtag replay. I'm right here on stage in Las Vegas with my friends. Say hello. Woo! Today I'm actually gonna share my story, how this all came to be, which is gonna be really fun, and I'm excited about it. But we're gonna get started with your why. And I'm going to go ahead and move this on over to my friend Maddie Graham here, and she is going to continue to record. And I will go ahead and get started. You guys, that right there, Facebook and social media, is how I have grown my business in this industry. So, first things first, find your why and you'll find your way. That is a quote by John Maxwell that I love, and that has been the topic today. I think every speaker has talked about the importance of finding your why. 16 weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas on stage as a top recruiter, top producer, sharing some mega value 16 weeks ago, okay? Why I'm here today, we're gonna get to that. I'm gonna go through the transition of that and how that all came to be. Starting with our story. So I live in Utah, so northern Utah, and grew up in Preston, Idaho. I know there's some people in that area. And my husband and I, we've been married for 18 years now. And when we were dating, okay, going way back, we were never going to do network marketing. Okay, who in here was a never ever network marketer? Let's hear you. I need to know who my people are. Oh, my so many. So it was a conversation that we were having one day. We were thinking that we might want to get married. We were talking about how many kids we might want to have, where we'd want to live, where we'd want to raise our family, and everything was kind of lining up. And I think it was him that had mentioned network marketing. I said, nope. And he's like, oh, I'm so glad you agree. I'm so glad you agree. And it was because our parents had dabbled in it here and there, never found success, right? And, my dad would talk to somebody at the gas pump or at the grocery store, and I was like, yeah, don't do that, stop, right? And so it was just one of those things, right? So that was just kind of in the contract, unwritten rule. So fast forward 12 years, and I joined my first company. Before we go into that, I wanted to talk about that my husband and I, we are entrepreneurs. It's in our blood. We have just always knew that's what we wanted to do. And picture on the right, we had a roadside, 24/7 roadside business that we did for 7 years, and it was a lot of work. We were successful. I'll tell you that year 2 out of the 7, we were not successful. We were young. I was 21 and he was 24 at the time, and we thought, hey, you know what? Let's start a business. We're like, okay, cool. What are we gonna do? And I called up my dad because he's an entrepreneur, and I says, hey, Dad, we're thinking we want to start a business. What should we do? And he's like, well, if you come down where I live, I was just thinking this, maybe we could you could change tires on the side of the road. And my husband's like, cool, my brother actually has worked for a tire company for 8 years. Let's call him up, see if he wants to go into business with us. And it just all kind of worked out, right? I knew we didn't have the money, right? So I had taken a 10th grade business management class that I loved. And I learned all the things on what I needed to do in order to get a loan to start a business. And so I did my due diligence and did everything I was supposed to do. We called Zions Bank, went in, sat down, and the guy within I think 9 minutes, he interrupted us and says, this isn't gonna happen. I'm like, what? like, look at our stuff. And he said, 9 out of 10 businesses these days fail, and we're not willing to take a risk. So we were like, wow, okay. Walked out of there kind of mad. We're like, what was that? And then more determined than ever to just make it happen, right? 2 years into the business, we were $80,000 in debt and not quite sure what we had done. And of course we started looking into like the whole online stuff, right? My husband got into the whole Google ads, making sure that we were online, doing all the things. And it was 1.5 years later that we had gotten out of the red.
Right.
So with all those things, so you learn a lot, right? It's hard, you go through hard stuff, but you learn so much. And I've learned as I've gotten older to be grateful for those opportunities to grow, right? The picture on the left, I grew up as a gymnast, and I had moved to this small town, Monticello, Utah. I don't know if anybody knows where it is. Yes? Monticello? Yeah, okay. So we lived there for 8 years, and I started to help the cheerleaders there, and they of course were like, wait, what? Like, what's tumbling? And I explained it. Oh, like the stuff you see on TV, like the Olympics? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you can do that? I'm like, small town, right? I'm like, yeah. So I started teaching them, and they were tumbling, and so it was the younger siblings that were like, hey, do you think you can teach me what you taught my older sister? I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. And so I created my own business, and that was successful as well. I'll tell you, not everything that we tried was successful, but
Love you, Mindy!
oh, hi baby, you're here. I love you too. Okay, and so that's our family, just to depict the point of the life that we were in, right? 2 boys, 1 little girl at the time. Then life happened. This is that little girl in the picture. She has a heart defect. We didn't know it. She was at 2.5. She was diagnosed with an undiagnosed coarctation of the aorta. And by the time they had figured it out, why she was so sick for 6 months, they found that her heart was 3 times too big, and she was, they called it severe cardiomyopathy, and she was in the last stages of heart failure. So that was hard, really hard, something that we had to definitely navigate and figure out. But owning our own business, that definitely put a wrench in things. My husband didn't work for a full year. We spent a lot of time at the hospital, and she had the open heart surgery, emergency open heart surgery, and they were able to take the coarc out. They repaired the valve, put a hole in her heart to equalize pressure, and then she remained in heart failure for 18 months. So we were navigating all of that, medications, and she finally was able to get off her heart medicine after 18 months. We still go back to the doctor. We still go back to the doctor. We still go back to the doctor yearly, and just for the full heart checkup, right? It's just kind of best case scenario in a heart patient's life. So here came network marketing. That year after the heart surgery I ended up going to counseling. So I was blaming myself. I was doing all the things that anybody that's in that situation, and you're a mom and you thought you should have seen the signs and seen it coming, it's you're hard on yourself. And so I was getting help with that, right? And in one of the counseling sessions, one of the most pivotal moments in my life, the counselor says, so what do you do for you? Like, what do you enjoy doing? And I look at her and I'm like, I can't even answer that question. I didn't even know. Because I had spent the last year worrying about my daughter. I was waking up in the middle of the night worried. I'd go lay by her, and she honestly, she still sleeps in her bed most of the time. But, yeah, so she'd asked me that question, and I said, why does that even matter? Like, what? And she was like, no, like, and then she asked, what can you control? And I thought for a minute, and I was like, she's like, with your daughter. I'm like, when I gave her heart medicine, she's like, perfect. I came up with something funny. She said, then how often do you give your daughter her heart medicine? And I said, 4 times a day. She says, perfect. She's like, what time do you give her her heart medicine? And I says, 8, 12, 4, and 8. Okay, great. Pick up your phone. So I pick up my phone. And she says, I want you to set a timer in your phone every time you have to give your daughter her heart medicine. So I do that. And she says, okay, now when that timer goes off, I want you to give her her heart medicine. Right on the second, just make it happen. What else can you control? And I was like, I couldn't think of anything. I was like, nothing. And she's like, then you let everything else go. And I've carried that with me on everything in life. Business, relationships, whatever it is. Control what you can control, let the rest go. And just do your best and pray, right? So, going back to the slide with my sister. So this is my twin. Her name is Mandy. I know Mindy and Mandy. What was the mom thinking? But hey. So I came home and she says, you need to find something to control. So I'm like, okay. So I come home and I'm like, what's this supposed to mean? Like, I know I used to love to go hiking and biking and shopping and traveling. I haven't really done any of that. And my sister signs up for a network marketing company. And she calls me up and I'm like, awesome, I want to support you. How can I support you? This is so cool. She's like, you should come do it with me. I'm like, you know that contract, it ain't happening. And she said, okay, well, I know how you can support me. She's like, come to this online event, okay? And I said, okay, cool. I show up, I was one of her invites. I'm at this exclusive event where her as like a distributor had to buy into the event, right? So with that money, they bought big prizes, okay? So I show up to this event, it's super fun, super high energy, amazing people presenting, and they have these amazing prizes that I could possibly win, right? And all I have to do is show up and listen to this fun thing they have going on. And I am an analyzer, and I'm a businesswoman, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is genius. I'm like, wait, this is network marketing? I might be interested, but wait, I can't do that, right? So then the next step, my sister's like, she lives in Boise, Idaho. I live in northern Utah, so about 4.5 hours apart. She's like, I'm coming to your house and I need you to invite a bunch of friends over so I can put this makeup on them and yeah, right? I'm just gonna host a party in my house. I'm like, sweet, I'm all in to just support you. So I invite all my friends over, they come over, she puts makeup on their face and pretty much all of them buy and it's like a $1,500 order. So she says her thing like she should, and she says, are these your customers or are they mine? Before I put these orders in, right? Sitting at the kitchen table. And I says, you know that contract, man. He's like, don't, stop. I already told you no. Like, this ain't gonna happen. Like, don't even. And so she took my customers. And 6 weeks, you guys, from that day, I obsessed over it. And I thought, this could be my answered prayer. I was never gonna do it. It's in our marriage contract. I didn't know how I was going to even present it to my husband, except I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought, well, these people are successful. What are they doing? So I start researching it, and it's building your brand online. And there's steps to that. And I knew that I was capable. I loved social media. I was on it. Why not provide value and ask for a sale, right? And so I called up my sister after 6 weeks, well, after I talked to my husband. And he was just like, okay, but no, you don't have to do this. I'm like, I know, but I need to. I need something for me, right? I need something that I can control. And I called up my sister and I was like, hey, how's it going? She's like, good, what's up? And I was like, I'm ready. She's like, ready for what? And I was like, I'm ready to sign up. And she's like, why? What got you to this? And I said, well, remember how I went to go see that counselor? She told me I need to find something I can control. Well, I think this is my answered prayer. And she's like, well, okay, I'll send you my link. We'll see what happens, right? And we dove all in. For 2 years, I was in that company, and I never was truly successful. Never hit that leadership rank. Super frustrated at times because I was doing everything my mentor told me to do. And I would reach out to her and be like, what else can I do? She's like, you're doing all the right things. Just stay consistent. Just keep showing up in people's lives. Keep providing value. Keep doing all these things. And so I was like, oh, you just make it look so easy. Now I get to say it, and I love it. I love it. I'm like, hey, it's fun. Just keep going. Keep showing up. Keep providing value. My team's all heard that. They're probably like, yeah, like that. Okay, so 2 years goes by, and we find that we are in serious medical debt. And I hadn't really made money, except I'm like, I'm putting in the work and the faith, like why is this not happening right? and we were actually $40,000 in medical debt, couldn't pay. My husband's like working overtime just to try and make ends meet. And I was finding myself on my knees again, being like, what can I do to help? And I knew something was coming. It was that feeling that was like, you put in the work, it's coming. And I had gotten contracted with a company that goes around the United States, 6 different locations, which was an investment, right? I had to get on a plane, take the product, go sit at a booth, and sell these products. And I was like breaking even, making some money, but not like what I dreamed this was going to be, right? But I just kept going, kept doing it, making it happen, and as long as we could afford to get there, right? And I was at an event, and I present on stage at these events. I teach 3 or 4 classes a weekend, and it was hair and makeup classes. And I was at this event, one of the events in Minnesota, actually, where I met Sarah. She's awesome, you guys. You guys will get to know her. And a friend came up to me and she just pulled her lash right off her eye. And I was like, what is that? And she says, it's magnetic eyeliner and lashes. Because in that moment, I was like, this is it. And I said, like, literal chills. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I've been praying for. This is, whatever it is, this is it. And I was like, does it work? You know? And she's like, yeah. Hands me your lash. And like, draws a line on the back of my hand. And I'm like, yeah, look how this works. And she's like, and I said, is it direct sales? And she says, it's going into direct sales. I'm like, when? And it was 6 weeks from that day. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, ground floor opportunity, like, all these things. I'm like, my head's spinning. Went back to my booth and, basically told her I'm all in, right? Went back to my booth and I'm like, I'm done here. I am looking at the product. I just knew it. That was my answered prayer. I was excited. I went home from that and got started with that company. So this is my family now. We have 4 kids, so we actually ended up having another during all that hardship, which was just to add to that mix, right? But she's doing well now. Like I mentioned, we just get to go check in with the doctor. And so, yeah, with that company, so we had like the pre-launch, right? When we launched, I was able to implement everything that I learned in the previous 2 years, right? All the research, implemented it, and created the systems, all social media. I'll tell you that I hadn't met hardly any of my team in person yet until we got to an event, and just showed up for him online consistently, right? But I was able to hit the top of the comp plan in 10 weeks with that company. I was like, this does work, you know? And it was here, and I was living it, and it's the top 1% of the 1%, and it was exhilarating, to say the least. We were able to use the same systems that we created we had learned that we were launching into Canada, which is super exciting. So I get on my Facebook opportunity group and I'm just providing value. Hey, here we go. Who do you know in Canada? Let us know. And I got connected with Tekla up in Canada, and we had about 5 months in pre-launch. And the day that we launched, September 25th of 2020, the rank that I took 10 weeks to hit, it took her 5 days.
Wow.
So it works. Social media works. It's amazing, amazing, amazing what you can do. So, being in that company 16 weeks ago, I actually ended up resigning. It was about a month after I was on stage. So I've been in this company for 11 weeks. And this part leads me to Dr. White. And he's the reason why I'm here. It was exhilarating, and through all of it, towards the end, my daughter started having severe anxiety. Separation, social, like in my house, she's glued to my hip, and I'm like, what is this, except the fact that she's now 8 years old, and last December, we had her heart checkup, and I don't think the doctor said anything different than what he's told us in the last 6 years, but that she understood it, right? Not quite sure what her future's gonna hold. She came home from that appointment with 100 questions like she does these days, and I took it as old enough to ask, old enough to know. And so I was very honest in answering questions, and that really just threw her into a spin. I knew at some point we would need to explain these things, right? And she wasn't wanting to go to school. It was 3 months of us just trying to get her to go. The counselor prying her off of us, like it was bad. And trying to get her into counseling, of course, that's a big need in our community and in the world right now. And so it was like 6 to 8 months wait. I'm like, I don't got time for this. She needs to go to school. I don't know what else to do. So I'm at lunch with some friends, and it was one of those days that I needed my friends, and they asked me how things are going, and I got emotional. They're like, what's going on? And I'm telling them, and they're like, I had a friend that's like, there's this doctor you need to go see. And I'm like, okay. And so got connected with Dr. White. And Harper loved him. Harper hates doctors. He hates doctors. We've had to figure out how to navigate her to go to the doctor, whether we tell her 2 weeks before or don't tell her at all. We've tried it all. It's a full-on mess while we're there. And that first appointment, she didn't want anything to do with him, but by the end, and he had opened up every drawer, and I'm like, I have no needles, it's fine. We were able to figure out some things with her, and I was like, wow, this is another answered prayer, right? He finds out that she needs brain sense, and we had to get creative on how she was going to take it, and mixed it with the yogurt and applesauce and dropping it in drinks, and for the most part we were able to get it pretty well, and she started to kind of change. And I was like, well, and really honestly I was like, let's give it a shot. What else can we do here, right? I don't know product. I'll tell you that I've never really taken a supplement except maybe collagen here and there, because my sister's like, you probably need to try this stuff, and then prenatals when I was pregnant, right? So I was just kind of like, it's worth a try, we'll see. And when she started to see results, I decided I needed to see Dr. White. So I go in, and now we were living a very stressful life, right? It's like, we got this. At the time, the company that I was with, I had just where I wasn't, okay, so Dr. White found out first appointment, he's like, you're not speaking your truth. And I says, oh, that's my job. And he's like, what do you do? And before that, he said, all he knew was that I was Harper's mom. He didn't even know my first name, right? So I come in, and I guess I'm the patient now, right? And he says, well, what's that? And I'm like, what do you do? And I says, well, I'm a leader in a network marketing company. I've been with them for 3 years. It's been amazing. We were able to pay off all my daughter's medical debt. So blessed, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I says, but it's come to a point where our values just don't quite line up, and it's hard because you've got, I'm in a position in the company where I listen to what's being said, and I need to portray that information, and I guess I knew too much, right, with what was happening in the company, and I had to do it every single week, and for too long. And he's just shaking his head. He's like, you can't do that. I'm like, but it's my job. I don't know what you expect me to do. It's my job. And he's just like, Mindy, he says, your digestion is off, your adrenals are shot, and it's gone to your head. Would you agree with me? I says, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I said, Dr. White, I could usually go live on Facebook and do a 45-minute to hour training call with my team. I'm super passionate about it, and I love it. I said, for the last year and a half, I'll tell you that I haven't really recruited in the company. And I said, I do bulleted points. And I says, to be honest, I'm crossing stuff off before I even push that go live button, and it's up by my, where I can see it, so nobody even knows that I have, the bulleted points. I says, people that really know me are reaching out, they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, this is great, which is not speaking my truth, right? And so he's just shaking his head, he's like, you can't do this forever. And I was like, tell me what I need to do. Like, is this brain sense going to help me or what, you know? And he's like, you're only going to get sicker. And so I said, okay. And he says, what is it that you love? What is it? Do you love what you do? And I said, oh, absolutely. He says, what is it that you love about what you do? And I says, I love the training. I love the community. I love empowering women. I love it all. Like, honestly, there's nothing that I don't love about it. And he's like, would you do it all over again? And I look at him all confused, and I was like, you mean join another company? And he's like, yeah. And I says, absolutely. I says, you give me a company that has values, that has people that I aspire to be, makes me want to just continue to grow, and brings back that passion again. I says, absolutely. And as I'm talking, like naming off all these, like I want things that he has helped me with, right? He grabs that bottle of brain sense and starts sliding it towards me. And I'm like, is that your Excel? And he said, he just nods his head. And he says, this is totally crossing my line as your doctor right now. And as he's talking, I get up, fall in my chair, and I'm like, I geek out over this stuff, let's talk. And he said, okay, you asked. And I was like, no, seriously. And I said, I'll have to try the product. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. I said, give me 5 weeks. 5 weeks, I'll be back with my own testimonial. If it's good, then we'll talk. And he says, okay. So I went home, I walked into the front door, and my husband's standing there, and I was like, well, he wants me to take this supplement too. And my husband's like, cool. And I guess I'm sicker than I ever wanted to admit. And yeah. And so I said, I need you to tell me if you notice anything. Because he had mentioned that. He says, ask your husband to notice, or see if he notices, because usually that's what happens, right? And so Scott, my husband, is like, okay. And it was day 4. He's like, you're different. And I'm like, how? Tell me. And he says, you just laughed. I haven't heard you laugh in a long time. And I was like, oh, right. And he said, and it was because our oldest son had said something. And he's like, normally you get irritated about that kind of stuff, and you'd probably go back and just find yourself on your computer working and then shut the bedroom door. And I'm like, wow, you're right. So 3 days later, I hear him taking supplement. And I'm like, wait, I only have a 30-day supply. You can't be doing that. Which surprised me, right? He's not the kind of guy that would. And he's like, yeah, I just want to see if it does something for me, right? And he would be on stage today if he could. He's actually in Boston for a training to tell you that he is patient, more patient with the kids, isn't quite so high-strung, and can manage stress better. So we love it. That's why we're here. That picture on the bottom right is the day that I got a call from Joe. And let me just talk about Joe for a minute. Where did he go? Joe, you're in the hot seat. Where are you?
Backstage. You went backstage.
Okay, so Joe, so Nolan had been like, you gotta talk to Joe. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, Nolan, I told you, like, I want my own testimonial, but hey, yeah, sure, I'll hop on a call. I like personal development. He's all about it. That's cool. And Nolan did his due diligence, his follow-up. He kept sending me links, inviting me to calls. And so I was able to get on a call with Joe and got to know him. And I think everybody in this room could just say you can just trust the man, right? He talked about the company and the reason why they do certain things, and everything he was saying, I was nodding my head. Yep. I like it. And there was a specific Zoom. Now I'll tell you, between the day that I was texting Nolan and being like, Nolan, this stuff's awesome, I think I'm going to be all in with this, till the day that I actually jumped, I probably had like 4 or 5 SOS Zooms where I'm like, coaching call now. Like, he has walked the walk in this industry. He knew how I was feeling. He knew that it was going to be hard for me. He knew what I was giving up and what that was going to entail. And he kept reminding me, like, I'm here for you. Like, if you need me, let's hop on a Zoom. let's chat it out. And I'll tell you the most impactful thing that he has ever said. One day, I was not in a good place, really wondering like what this was going to be for my family. More fear-based. I'll say it was fear-based, because some companies can do that to you, right? He just sat and listened. It was probably 45 minutes. No one was on the call too. And I was like, this is happening, and this, and what if, and what if, and what if, and this is what I know I need to do, but how do I go about it? And at the end, all he said was, just keep praying, you'll know what to do. And I just like started, like, don't know him that well, right? I want to cry in front of him. And I'm like, my CEO would never say that. And I'm like, I gotta go. And I'm like, I'll go cry it out, right? So it's just that moment of knowing what I needed and what I wanted in my life. There was a pivotal moment with Dr. White when I was in his office, and I was having that moment, like, my family this, my work this, like, I'm just so stressed, like, what's going on? And he just looks at me and he says, Mindy, what do you want? And I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, stop. It's this, this, this. He says, no, answer me that question. What does Mindy want? And I said, I had to think for a minute, and I was like, I want to be happy. And he's like, okay, you want to be happy? Like, what's that going to take? And I said, I want to surround myself with people I aspire to be. Okay. And what else, right? And he says, you're going to go home, and you're going to write, get a piece of paper and a pen out, and you're going to write, I want, and you're going to finish that sentence. He says, then you're going to go to the next line, and you're going to write, I want, and you're going to finish that sentence. And he says, I want you to keep writing that until you can't think of another thing that Mindy wants in her life right now. And I'll tell you that is the most amazing thing that you can do for yourself. He said, do you believe in affirmations? And I says, oh yeah, every day. I love affirmations. And he says, those are your new affirmations. He says, every morning when you wake up, you're going to pull out that piece of paper and you're going to read them. And he says, moving forward, if there's ever anything that comes into Mindy's life that Mindy doesn't want, Mindy doesn't need it in her life. And I wrote my list and I looked at it. I'm like, it's 90% family and faith-based. And that told me something. And it changed my life. So, going back to this picture, I'm all in. I still don't know how I'm going to navigate this. I just know I've got Joe behind me to just tell me every step to take, right? And he calls me. He's like, I'm coming to Logan. I'm like, sweet, I could actually meet you. This is going to be awesome. He's like, yeah, I'm coming to see Nolan. We're going to meet at his office. We've got Cody and Marley that are both here. Woo! In the picture as well. We got our little local team going on. Oh, and Shannon. Woo. I think she took the picture. You should have had your husband there. And so Joe's like, I'm coming. So then I get off the phone. I'm like super excited. And I had just resigned. I resigned May 16th at 9 a.m. and had that in my calendar. For whatever reason, that day and time just felt so completely right. And the day and time came and it happened. And here I am. So that had happened. The next 4 days, Mindy, how are you doing? I'm like, I just need to breathe. I just need to breathe. I had a lot of people reaching out, wanting to connect. And then Joe says he's on his way. So I say, awesome. I hang up the phone. The next text he gets from me says, Joe, we're doing my live when you get here. Right? Social media, it's powerful. And he said, okay, cool. I don't know what we're doing, but I'll just follow your lead, right? And so he shows up. I had made like a post that says, hey, I'm going to announce what I'm up to, right? And so we're ready to go live and got it all ready. And of course they have a million questions because they're not quite, they've never seen anything like this. And I was like, Joe, that's fine. I'm just going to start it. We're going to do my thing. And when I need you, I'll cue you in, right? You come in and just talk about the business and how amazing it is and all of that. And then Nolan, you're going to talk about product, right? I don't know product. I don't have to be the expert. It's fine. And so then we went live, and before, so my husband's like my tech guy, right? He just loves computers, so he's watching. And so Joe says to Scott, he's like, so how many people are going to be on? And over here, and I was like, I'll be happy if there's 20. I'll be happy. And we went live, and the numbers kept rising, and it got up to like 80 something. And these guys are like baffled. They're like, you just went live and shared your story to 80 people right here. You didn't have to travel. You didn't have to do any of that stuff. No upfront costs. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I do, guys. That's what I do. It's fine. And they're just baffled. And then afterwards, we go to dinner, and they're like, no one I think's like, how many people have viewed the video? Can you see views? I'm like, oh yeah, it tells you. So we pull it up, it's like 1,200. He's like, 1,200 people have heard your story, Mindy? This is incredible. I'm like, you guys, it's social media. It's awesome. So it was just fun to kind of see their perspective moving on to just the only way that I've known network marketing, to be honest. And so yeah, it's been fun, exhilarating. I hopped on a Zoom with Joe from the kind of the beginning where it was like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. And I'd done my own research, right, with the company. I'm like, where are they located? Who are the owners? Like, all of that. And I'd hopped on and done some Google searches, and there wasn't a ton of stuff, which I was like, interesting, okay. What about meeting people online talking about it? I went on and searched it. It was pretty much crickets. And being a businesswoman and understanding the power of social media, I looked at that and thought, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity. The product is incredible. It's amazing. The marketing material on the Go Recruit app is incredible. Those videos, shout out to Clifton Brady's son, my goodness. I was just getting excited. I'm like, wow, okay, this is gonna be fun. So I get on the next Zoom with Joe, and I was like, hey Joe, do you guys have any influencers or any of that on social media? And he's like, not really. I'm like, okay. I said, no disrespect at all, but how do people? I said, you've got your company. He's like, yeah. And I said, okay, no disrespect, but how do they promote this product? Because you guys, I come from a place, and I'm like, I don't know. And he says, it's belly to belly. And I says, and that's I'm thinking way back 20 years ago, right? And I said, people still do that? And he says, yeah, and they're successful. I'm like, I'm impressed. I gotta meet these people. And I said, Joe, I said, if I do this, it's not going to be like that. And he says, I'm counting on it. Let's make this happen. And we've been able to create our systems. I told him, I said, give me 6 weeks. It's taken us almost 11, which is fine. Kids are home. It's summer. I got to spend time doing that too. And 11, we're just kind of starting to button it up, and I feel this momentum starting with the team. It's been awesome. So I was able to hit gold in 10 days that first month, and the team, we were able to do, by August 5th, we were gold. So it's projected to just the momentum to go, and we're really excited about the future. We've got our systems set up. We've got Clifton and Nolan, Dr. White and Dr. Brady. I'm like, guys, I don't know product. I don't need to be the expert, I know that, but what I need you guys to do is go Facebook Live. Can you do that for me? And they're like, sure, you just tell me what I need to do. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna set up a little station inside your office. We're gonna just stand right here and I'll push this button. It's great, and just talk like you're talking to somebody. And they've done an amazing job, so thank you guys. So we do have this Facebook group, if you guys all want to be a part of it. The value and the power of that is what we call the ATM system, right? You bring in a new recruit, they don't need to know product. We don't need to feel like we need to know it all. So I add them to the group, I tag them in a video of Dr. White talking about a specific product, and then I message them and say, hey, go listen to this doctor. And we create this community that we are building the algorithms. It's been awesome. It's been exhilarating, to say the least. And we're just getting started, so it's really, really awesome. Okay, so with that, going back to your why, there's a few quotes that I wanted to, before I do that though. My why when I began was to help pay for my daughter's medical bills. And I'll tell you that I went all in. I was going to control something. That happened, right? I had to think bigger at that point and think, what else? What else is my why? And they say your why should make you cry. And just like Clifton was hounding this guy up here, trying to break him, it was why, but why, but why? And they say that you can ask it 5 times and get to the base of that. I'll tell you that after that, I had to really just be like, okay, so grateful for what this gave me, ready for that next thing, what is it? And it was the idea of my family and my kids being in the audience and being proud of their mom. So I've gone on a few incentive trips. I've gone to events like this. And every time when my husband's here, because he needs somebody to hang out with, right? We'll usually bring a kid with us. And 16 weeks ago when I was on stage, I don't know if you guys know this, but I was wearing some red shoes, red high heels. And we go back to the room, and my daughter is just like, Mom, that was so cool. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're here, right? And she puts those red shoes on, and she says, and Mindy Saunders, and she walks across the room. I told my husband, I was like, that's why I do what I do. I hope to empower them. I hope to know that you can do anything you put your heart to. There's always a way for that. So, that being said, I want you guys to practice your breathing exercises, okay? Hand on your heart. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to really just think about these, okay? Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to ask you guys, continue that breathing pattern. What is your why? When that little voice in the back of your mind tells you to quit, think about why you started. What is it that you really want? Take the time to sit down, breathe deep, and ask yourself, what do I really want? The only way to get what you really want is to let go of what you don't want. What are you willing to do to get there? If you're interested, you'll do what's convenient. If you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to leave you guys with a quote by Simon Sinek. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. Thank you.